Any bets on how long after your LP has been released this AMA series will receive a copyright strike against open windows? Question on the mixing of drums/percussion. I can't see your focal monitors. Do you use them in some particular situation? What would happen to dance music industry if situation what's happening in the world right now would continue for another year? Analog summing is one of those things that I think Hey guys, welcome to the Kane audio vlog. It is Friday. It's time for another Ask Me Anything. Usual rules apply. Comment anything you want below this video and I'll get back to you in next week's video. Before I look at last week's video, is there any house admin? I don't think there is this week. I think we're pretty much good. The Spotify playlist got updated last week, so it won't be updated today. But if you haven't checked it out, then do check it out because that's why I do it, so link below this video. The other thing I wanted to mention is anybody, and I know there are several people watching these videos who backed my Kickstarter campaign, you should be getting your CDs now, today. I'm filming this on a Thursday and a few people in the UK started getting their CD yesterday. I was warned in the post office. Apparently there are delays in the US of A. I mean, it made the news over here, so I'm guessing you guys in the US know that there are going to be delays because of your Postmaster General and whatnot. So yeah, I think the rest of Europe and the world are fairly normal. So yeah, you should be getting it any day now. There's going to be maybe a couple of slight delays. I got into conversation with the person in the post office and he sort of explained that the costs of things have gone up as well because of there are less flights going across carrying letters. I don't know. I'm not in the business. So there we go. Anyway, so your CDs should be arriving any day now. So I'm kind of leaving that for a few days and before I post out the links to download a copy, which will be going out probably in a few days time. So I'd say Monday is my aim. And there we go. That's everything up to date. I think that's house admin. Yeah, I've already opened my beer. Welcome to Beer Club already. I opened this 10 minutes ago because I had some food before I started recording. This is Wylam Brewery, again, the guys who make Jakehead, which is one of my all-time favourites. I forget what this one's called. I Dream Beside the Sea or something like that, which is my first time trying it and it's delicious. Right, let's have a look at last week's video. Starting at the top with Andrew Hollis, NASA, high five. Daft question. Any bets on how long after your LP has been released this AMA series will receive a copyright strike against open windows? Very good question. And yeah, for anyone that isn't aware, track number 1 on my album is called Open Windows, and it is the finished version of the theme tune you probably just heard to this video at the beginning. Question on the mixing of drums/percussion. In actual, I'll answer your question. It'll probably be pretty quick, but it's fine. I can whitelist my own channel, I hope, considering I am the writer, composer, producer, engineer, A&R, distributor, and everything else in between. So there we go. Question on the mixing of drums/percussion. One of the biggest mistakes I constantly make is having drums and in particular percussion way too loud. Is there a sweet spot dB wise that you start your drums at, or is it the default minus 10 dB? My mistake comes from, right, I'll start there. So basically, is there a sweet spot dB wise for drums Is there a sweet spot for drums? I mean, there is, but I think that it's different in every track. So my channel gain is set to minus 10 dB as by default for everything. Therefore, when I start with a kick drum, for example, the kick drum is basically hitting 0 dB in full scale terms. So it's hitting minus 10 dB, and that's kind of my starting point in so far as mixes go. The rest of the drums need to, in my view, complement or support. And that's kind of the idea of your percussion, I would say it should complement or support your main drum groove pattern, whatever. Unless you're, I don't know, making, say, a tribal house track, you know, or something that's specifically percussive and heavy on the percussion. If you're making, I don't know, a techno track or a electronica ambient track or something, then your percussion really should be several dB below your kicks and snares, I would say, probably below your hats. So, but I don't think there's a set dB level to have them aimed at. I think it's about maybe what you need to do is switch off your computer screen if you can, or just turn around, or just don't look. I think just don't look at your screen and just have a slider, you know, assign a MIDI controller or something and just do it by ear. I think that's probably the best way of doing it, because if you do it if you set anything to dB other than something you know that's just whatever the maximum is, then I think you're missing out on tricks, and you're not testing your ears enough. It's really difficult to put into words how I mix, to be honest, because I feel like everything needs to support each other. And of course, this is genre specific to an extent, but first and foremost, for most 4/4 music, in fact, for most music, your kicks and your bass are the roots to a track, or the trunk of a tree, and the branches and everything have to just sit around it. If you imagine that sort of tree-shaped image, everything just sort of sits around it and supports it, and really the kicks and the bass are that central focal point that everything dances around. I don't know what I'm talking about there, but there's something poetic in there, I'm sure. My mistake comes from the obsession of looking at the meters, and if they aren't near 0 on the minus 20k system, then I crank it up. Yeah, so pretty much exactly what I just said, or the opposite of what I just said. Just look away from the screen. I'll be honest, one of the reasons why I like using the K20 system is I don't, and Bitwig as well, kind of, I'm sure lots of people see this as a negative, but Bitwig is a bit confusing with where they've placed the numbers and what numbers they make visual. And it actually works to my favour, I think, because it stops me bothering to look, because I can see it's kind of green or orange or red or whatever, and it's either a hot signal or it's not a hot signal, and I don't tend to look at the numbers then, so I tend to just play it by ear and just listen. I really should be letting my ears tell me if it's too loud. Again, yeah, schoolboy error, I know, but a tough one to break. I guess that's why you recommend playing back the track with the LCD monitor off. Oh, there we go, to hear the track instead of looking at it. So someone has already paid attention to something I've said in the past. Makes a change. Yeah, it's I can't recommend it enough. And also, for any of you that struggle with your mixes, I also sometimes recommend just walking out the room. Just press play, turn it up, quite loud, not too loud, but and then walk out of whatever room you're in. If you're in your bedroom or living room or whatever, just walk out the room and kind of just walk around the area. Go into the kitchen, make yourself a cup of tea, and listen to it from a different room. sometimes when you're hearing something from a different room, because you're so entirely focused on just the sounds that you can hear, the obvious ones aren't so obvious, and the less obvious ones become more obvious because things tend to poke out a bit more. I've quite often sort of, started a mix job or whatever, and then walked off to a different room or started looking at something else, and then suddenly gone, what's that poking out? It might be a percussive hit or something that just sticks out like a sore thumb, and it just doesn't sound right. So that's my idea. FanFan87, salut Dom, NASA, high five. No questions this week, just can't wait to put my hands on your album. Really looking forward for this one. Watching through the window all this morning, waiting for the delivery. Cheers. Thank you very much. That was posted 4 hours ago, so I hope you got it, because it's now evening. If you didn't, maybe tomorrow. Salut, I'm guessing you're in France, so I don't know. It shouldn't be long. Moving on, Dream Puppet. Hi Dom, I can see your focal monitor. I can't see your focal monitors. Do you use them in some particular situation? And what is your opinion on A/B monitoring? Worth it? So I kept my focals for a long time when I bought the Opals, and I A/B'd between the two for a while because I knew the focals inside out, and I knew what I was listening for with the focals. Whereas with the events, I kind of wasn't sure whether they were making certain areas too nice or whatever. However, since I've moved here, I've not used the focal. In fact, I sold them a year ago. I think it was last year, maybe even the year before. No, I think it was last year I sold them. Whatever the case. Anyway, when I first moved here, they stayed in a box for a year or 2 years, and I ended up thinking, I'm not going to use these. I should sell them and get something different. So that's what I did, and I didn't replace them with speakers. I have no idea what I spent the money on. But I liked A/Bing at the beginning, and I just found after a while, once I'd sort of established a relationship with the event Opals, I just didn't need to A/B because I knew what I was listening to and what I was hearing in there. So I think it sort of became reliable enough. My opinion on A/B monitoring, I mean, I think it's worth it if you have, I forget what speaker it is. There's a popular speaker that seems to have crept up in studios the last couple of years or so. I'm not sure if it's a mono speaker or if there's a pair of them, but I've definitely seen them as some mono cubes in studios, and it sounds terrible. Basically, it's like a really cheap, low budget, terrible sounding speaker, and a lot of mix engineers say, if you could make it sound good on that, then you can make it sound good on anything, and that's kind of the theory. So I understand the reasons for A/B monitoring in that respect, but honestly, unless you happen to have two sets of monitors that you love and know inside out, then really there's no point in doing A/Bing, because there's just no. You should really only be listening to whatever your best monitors are. So for me, the difference between the focals and the Opals was, they were worlds apart, which took some getting used to. But once I got used to it, 100% Opals, because they were far more revealing in both the highs and the lows. And if there were mistakes, then I was going to hear it in the Opals if I was going to hear it in anything. So, I'm sticking to that. Hardware for image is tricky, but for those that we start in music before computers were so protagonist, we are used to seek for hardware. So this is going on about, I mentioned last week how, I think a lot of us sort of buy some equipment and it's kind of just for looks, really. It happens, but, there are definitely certain clients that will book a studio, and I've seen it in literal documentaries. I've seen famous producer DJs, and I'm sure some of you have already worked out who I'm talking about, in actual documentaries, who are sat in a multi-million-dollar complex studio, huge desks, just, racks and racks of gear, and in the middle of this huge, I don't know, Neve desk or something, beautiful analog summing mixer, and they've just got their laptop plugged in with the audio out, and you just sort of think, oh, that's such a waste of money, but they're doing it for the cameras, and it is what it is. Anyway, we used to see hardware is more natural, and at least myself love hardware. Related to this, what are your feelings on analog summing? Maybe not the great look as a big mixing desk, but is it worth it technically? NASA, high five and cheers. In which case, cheers. Analog summing is one of those things that I think is more about the engineer's, I would say, ego, but listening pleasure. It's really, there are slight nuances in analog summing that make a very slight difference. But in all honesty, it's much like, I've talked about reverbs, for example. People talk about what's your favorite reverb, and while yes, if you're recording, an acoustic singer-songwriter up close, a really intimate a cappella, then a reverb is going to add character or take character or add depth, or it's going to have an impact on the overall tones and characters of the voice. I'm not going to deny that. However, if you're smashing a snare drum through a stack of reverb and then drenching that and covering it in hi-hats and kick drums and bass lines and 909s and 303 acid lines going through and big 808 tom drums and whatever, you get the picture. Is anyone going to sit there and go, ooh, good reverb on that hi-hat? They're not going to. Similarly with analog summing, could I, for example, plow through some albums and go, this guy used analog summing? No, not in a million years. It'd be a guess. I don't believe even people with, prodigy ears like Bobcats, for example. I don't believe even he would be able to pick out an album that used analog summing blind. So is it worth it? Probably for the engineer who recorded it and summed it at the time, because listening to it before and after, you can probably tell there's a difference. But listening to one product that was and one entirely different product that wasn't, you're not going to really know which one was which. So there we go. That's my view on that. And then last but not least, Yanis Luckmels. Hi Dom. Crazy, but I think I've missed maximum 5 out of 120 videos. It's hard to find good questions though. Anyway, here will be one from me. What would happen to dance music industry if situation what's happening in the world right now would continue for another year? So, what would happen to the dance music industry if we carry on, I guess, with this pandemic for another year? If I'm honest with you, I think it will be another year. Certainly it's going to impact us for years to come. I don't think necessarily we'll be in lockdown for another year. But I'm not saying we won't either. We can listen to DJs and bands' online streams at home, but it looks more as a last hope rather than a solution. No physical experience, no ticket sales, completely different business models, etc. Yeah, I agree. It is. And I mean, I guess we can all guess at what the new normal is going to be. And honestly, I don't really know what that's going to be. I have spoken to a few artist managers who have said that some of their DJs are now making good money from the streams. which is great, and good luck to them. I also know that a lot of people seem to have problems with Facebook not letting you live stream copyrighted music, but the thing you've got to understand on that front is, if I played a gig tonight in the O2 Manchester, the O2 Manchester pays a license for me to play that music. So if I played my own tracks, I earn royalties from that. Or if I play David Guetta's music, then David Guetta gets some royalties from that, from my performance. That's how it works. It's copyrighted. Facebook don't pay a license, so they don't legally have the option for you to start playing music. So I think there are things like that can or maybe will change. I think if anyone watching this wants to be a DJ doing live streaming, then you need to be speaking to people like Facebook and people like ASCAP or BMI or PRS or whatever your country's collection society is. And you need to explain to them the situation and say what you want to do and how you want to do it. And there should be some sort of a license you can achieve, because at the end of the day, if you want to play music in your shop, then you need a license for that. If you want a jukebox in your pub, then you need a license for that. It shouldn't be any different for a live stream on Facebook or whatever. So I think there are potentially ways to make money. I think there are things that we can do. And, of course, then we enter the world of the capitalist world of sponsorship and endorsements and things like that. So I don't think the world is bleak for the electronic dance music industry, but I also think that the dance music industry can sometimes be a bit slow to catch up with the times. However, the whole fact that you say, no physical experience, no ticket sales. Well, ticket sales is another thing, because I've already been offered a few jobs doing webinars instead of seminars and lectures, and they have ticket sales. So I think ticket sales are there. My guess is, okay, initially with the live stream thing, because nobody knew what they were doing, it's all going to be free. I don't know if maybe there's some sort of, I've seen some online festivals going ahead and doing stuff. I don't know if you have to buy tickets for that or not. I don't know what the score is there, but I guess in terms of, let's pretend it was a festival and you had a TV studio and you use that TV studio to broadcast online and make it like a pay-per-view event where £5 gets you all access for the weekend to see all the bands performing and whatever. That's an option, I suppose. I'm sure some people are probably already doing that. The physical experience, though, is entirely different, and that's something I just can't answer. I don't know how. What's weird is I watch TV and I see, I don't know, some sort of TV show, and a man walks into the shops, and now I see it and I'm watching TV and I see that situation and I go, oh God, they're close. It's just a guy going into a shop and, I don't know, buying some cigarettes or something, and you just instantly you go, oh, they're close. So because of that, I don't know how. Don't get me wrong, that's me. But I'm sure there are people. I know there are people out there today who are happy to walk into a shop and be right up in someone's face. There are plenty of people around here, just they don't care. But in terms of nightclubs, I sort of look back at that now. If I think back to like my days of Ministry of Sound, where even the DJ booth you could barely walk in because there were just people everywhere sweating and breathing in your face, and that was part of the experience. When are we going to be able to get back to that? Because nightclubs at the minute in the UK especially, nightclubs are, I don't think they've even come onto the radar of the government. They don't care. So are we going to get to a point where we can interact physically like that anytime soon? No chance. If you look at the pubs and restaurants that have opened so far, already the numbers are going up again, and that's without people, let's be honest, getting off their face one way or another, legally or illegally, at 2:00 in the morning, sweating and dancing and hugging and cheering and shouting and screaming and clapping and throwing hands in the air. I honestly, I don't know where we go from here in terms of the physical experience. But to end on a slightly lighter note, because this is the last comment, I do think there are lots of things that we as producers, DJs, whatever, can be doing, whether it be online webinars or something along those lines. We can still be collaborating remotely. We can still easily be producing music. And don't forget, for a lot of the people who don't do electronic music, for people who are in bands or whatever, they can't just hire a studio and go with their 5, 6, 7, 8 bandmates and start recording an album. So it's we're kind of lucky in that respect. And also they can't do the live streams and things, so again, we're sort of lucky that being solo artists, I suppose, there's actually quite a lot we can do. So yeah, I think if it carries on for another year, there's going to be a lot of changes. There's already a lot of changes that I've just talked about. I think if it goes on for another year, there's going to be so many more changes, because there's going to be a lot of people who just can't continue, if I'm honest. There's going to be a lot of people. In fact, there's already a lot of people who haven't been able to continue. So I think it'll be interesting to see how things pan out. But I will always hold hope that, people need art, people need music, people need something to look forward to. People need to socially interact one way or another, whether that be online or offline or whatever. People need these things. We need human connections. So I don't think the industry is going anywhere, but I do think it's going to have some pretty big changes. And I think it's up to us, people watching these videos and asking these questions, it's up to us to decide where we want it to go, I suppose. I've already had to make a lot of changes with my album and the marketing and the strategy, and there've been a lot of changes along the way. I mean, for starters, it was supposed to come out in April. So there's been a lot of changes already, and I guess as time goes by, we'll see what works and what doesn't work. And there we go. NASA, high five. That, my friends, is it for this week. That is it. If you've made it this far into the video, then you deserve a medal. To get a high five in next week's video, comment the word Pluto. The Year of Pluto, New Horizons documentary. There we go. So comment the word Pluto, get a high five in next week's video. As usual, please do comment, like, subscribe, definitely share, because we need more views on these videos. We need more people to see these videos, because we need more people to ask questions on these videos, which means you guys get more answers on these videos. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. That is it for episode 121. I'll see you this time next week. Cheers.